listening to Enlivening Musings, a podcast to enhance your life so you live fully alive. Sponsored by the Pleasure Fairy app. Download it for more support. Welcome to Enlivening Musings. I'm Crystal.
And I'm Katie.
And today we are talking about kidney depletion. Boom, 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 boom. Because it is super common and it affects so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I say kidney depletion, I want to give the preface that I'm not talking just about your overall kidney health. So this isn't just for, if you have kidney issues or any of those types of things, because so often when I've been even doing internal organ balancing on an energetic level with somebody, I'll say, okay, well, that's your kidney or that's your heart or that's your lung or whatever. And they're like, something's wrong with my kidneys. It's like, no. It's just they're needing some extra love. They're a little bit out of harmony right now. They just need some balancing. It's not that you have kidney disease. It's not that you have kidney stones. It's not any of that stuff that people would consider more like mainstream Western medicine type stuff. Now, can it lead to something like that? Sure, absolutely. Just like all psychosomatic, emotional type stuff manifests in the body and then can go that far, sure. But I just wanted that clarity before we dive in here, that we are more talking on that energetic level. And one of the easiest ways to think about that is with something like Chinese medicine, acupuncture. You think of that kidney meridian, that line of energy that runs through the body. Or if you think about Taoist practices where you're just connecting with that part or, through somatic experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that is where we are going with all of this. Do you have anything to add before?
No.
Okay.
I think it's such a cool area to start to dive into and unlock, because most of the time when I share some of this information with people of all the different organs and just the energies and emotions, it always resonates with them, and they're always like, oh my gosh, and it's so powerful. And it's such a good way to get people in their body,
mm-hmm.
And participating in the experience, in the treatment experience.
Totally. Yeah.
And out of their head and into what I always call channel 3, is into the more like artistic mind, the non-intellectual, which is the healing part of our bodies. So anything to get people into that, sensations, colors, textures, I love using. So I've loved using some of these techniques. Kind of like a Qigong is how I've kind of learned a lot of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the teachings that I use.
Yep.
But the other day, Crystal and I were talking, because I'm in one of her, do you call it a Jade Egg class? What would you call it that we're doing?
It's my Embodied You program.
Yeah,
so,
you know the title of it.
Yeah.
So we're doing some of these practices, and I was reading through the book, and I had to message her because one of the quotes was, and I'll let Crystal correct it too, but she was talking about how if the kidneys aren't nourished, basically how there's no room for pleasure. And then the connection to like the kidney point. Is it the kidney point?
Yeah, it can be the kidney points and like the feet.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's the entrance to draw up that energy and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So explain that a little bit more, because that's kind of your knowledge base a little bit more. But I was blown away by this information, and it makes so much sense.
Well, it's so interesting because the kidney meridian, as well as just in general, like the blood chi, is, to me, they are so like intertwined that they work very much together. And so one of the best ways that I like to describe any of it even is with birth, because that's also, my history and, my genre, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so when somebody gives birth, for example, they completely deplete their body of their kidney meridian energy and their blood chi. It just goes out because they lose so much. It's all going down and out of their body. And so now they're just naturally in that more depleted state, which is why we need to nourish the mother back up. And so an average person can become depleted in different ways. So it's through, that excessive busyness. It's like we only have, it sounds so limiting. So I might backtrack myself a little bit here, but it's like we only have so much energy for the day and we're just like using it and then it's gone. Whereas if you're doing more practice like this, you're continually cultivating this energy from source or from the earth. So that kidney 1 point is on the bottom of the feet. And so it's connecting you to the earth and it's connecting you to source, where you can draw that energy up and into your body and nourish yourself that way.
Do you think like just sitting and doing a little like acupressure massage in that area is like something that would be helpful for people?
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's right to tell people that, like, I would say go, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, like to the base of your big toe and right in the middle of the right in the middle from there, about midline on the bottom of the foot.
I have to grab my own foot.
Okay.
So I need to
we want to give you guys some actual tangible thing you can do here.
And you could go look it up. Like there are some great visuals, but for me, it's more from like your middle toe straight down.
Okay, yeah.
And you've got the ball of your foot there, and it's, if you look at the ball of your foot as though it's like your rib cage and how your xiphoid process, it's kind of like finding that spot.
Yeah, that's totally where I see it in my mind. That's a good description. Yes.
So, that's where it's at. But of course, if you need the visual, and it might be sore, you
probably will feel it.
Yeah.
When you hit that spot, you'll be like, oh.
Yeah. And it's
so cool.
And your hands naturally go there. Like if you cup your hands or your foot with both your hands and you just kind of are sliding down the middle of your foot, I don't know.
It's just there.
It's
You'll
just
find
this
it.
Natural spot to go. But also with that, the kidneys, they flush everything and they rule water. And so being able to nourish the kidney, that's the place of nourishment. And so I feel like we've talked about this before, but the reason you can't feel so turned on or so connected to that Gigi part of yourself when the kidney is depleted is because you're depleted. And you think of water and how it conducts energy and it sends messages and it's got the fluidity for emotions. You just think when that is harmonized, everything feels juicy and flowy, and you think of all those more positive effects of water. Where when it's depleted, it's dried up, it's not succulent, it's lacking, can feel defeated, you know? And so how can you go from that to being like, oh yeah, I'm ready to go. Let me just feel so good and juicy, even though I'm completely dried up feeling,
Yeah. Like that just seems impossible. And I think so many women are so hard on themselves because they're like, I'm just like not interested in sex. Like I just don't feel it. It doesn't feel good. I know my husband wants to, so I do, but they could just take it or leave it. And I'm like, okay. So it just needs to go back so far. And I think, a lot of times providers are like, well, here's a lube or here's like an estrogen cream if you have dryness and it's like, oh my gosh, no, I really got to peel back these layers of nourishment. So when I read that, I was like, oh, this totally makes sense to what I'm seeing. It's like it gave me like a reason. Try to put into context what I knew I was seeing with people. Right. I knew like women are feeling like exhausted, undernourished, especially in that first year postpartum. Plus then you also have like all the hormone things going on. But if that time is not taken during that postpartum or just during any phase of a woman's life,
right?
Then you hit times like menopause, and then it's a lot more difficult, I think, to start to cultivate that back. Not that it's impossible, but man, if we can keep nourishing ourselves in our younger years and start teaching this to our daughters, what a better life to have of just vitality. I mean, I've just said, I feel like it's this epidemic of kidney deficient women running around and maybe men too. I'm just like, I work with women mainly. And that's what and I'm a woman. So that's what I'm interested in. And that's what I read about. But yeah, it's just makes sense of why we need these practices of like self-massage and just slowing down and finding pleasure in everyday things.
Well, and then when we bring in that emotional component, kidney rules fear.
Yes.
And so how many people are struggling with fear? You know, it shows up as anxiety. It shows up as, again, that excessive busyness and scatteredness and that feeling like you're all over the place. It shows up in fear of losing relationship. It shows up, you know, because there's so much stuff that's deep down inside where, you know, especially on the social level is what I'm getting at, where we feel like we could be cut out of the tribe. So we've done so much to not listen to our inner selves and not be ourselves because we're trying to fit in so that we don't suffer this social being ostracized, being ostracized from the collective. Mm-hmm. And so, and yet when we start tuning into ourselves and actually shining as the individual star matter that we are, we actually benefit not only ourselves but the world, and we keep tuning into ourselves, which helps diminish that fear because we feel that connection to ourselves and to the earth. And again, like the kidney isn't the earth element, yet being that entry point on the feet, it does connect us to the earth. And when we can feel that connection to the earth, we can feel held. And we can feel safe. And then we can move from there. And so simple steps for starting to help harmonize that for yourself is doing that, you know, doing some grounding, like Katie was talking about, self-massage on the feet, just holding your feet even and breathing into your feet is so, so powerful. Starting to pay attention. Are you drinking enough water? Are you having a lot of caffeine? You know, anyway. Mm-hmm. So all of that kind of stuff. Can you slow down different parts of your daily life so that say no. So you're not saying yes to all of the projects and all the things that are making your plate too full. Mm-hmm. You know, just all of those things. And then also, like Katie was talking about, really nourishing and healing postpartum for all of the women who have given birth, even if we're talking about giving birth 2 decades ago or anything, like do it now.
Right. And we've talked about this in a lot of episodes, but even if you're just hearing this now, I mean, I know when I heard it and I was like, I thought I was done having kids. And then I had one more, because I really wanted to nurture myself postpartum. I was like, I should do this. And I mean, that's not the only reason, but it was part of, like, I thought, okay, well, let me really take it seriously this time. But okay, if you're done with that and you're still menstruating, you can use your menstrual cycle as that rest time. Treat it just like a postpartum time. Really take care of yourself. And if you're past that, whether it's just like natural menopause or surgical, just use the moon time. We've talked, Crystal and I have talked about this. So you can use full moon, you can use new moon. It's whatever you resonate with, I think is fine. But just set aside just 2 to 3 days a month to just like super nourish yourself. And then a little bit every day too.
Right. Yes, exactly.
But it's something to look forward to. And one other thing that as a women's health PT, I found really interesting that I've been learning too, with learning some of the jade egg practices, is how the opening of the vagina is the kidney point.
Yep.
Which also just blew my mind because most women that are having pelvic pain, that's where it's at. I mean, yes, sometimes it's some deeper muscles, but the times where it's so strongly to me, like very much some emotional, spiritual issues, it's like right at the opening. It is exquisitely tender. so people will have like tenderness upon immediate penetration, and then afterwards they'll have a lot of burning pain. So if those are any symptoms that you're feeling, find a good pelvic floor therapist near you, or someone that could work with you virtually even, to kind of work through some of this, because it's super, super common. You're not alone. You're not broken. And learning some of these other techniques, especially if you can find a holistic practitioner that knows these things, like, well, yeah, we got to kind of go back a few steps and do some deeper nourishment as well as some work on the tissue. So I think that's such a cool connection to learn about. And I know there's other points deeper in the vaginal canal.
Yes.
as well. But today we're talking about the kidney point. So super interesting to see those parallels and what the nourishment can do there. It's amazing.
Right. Well, and I love that component, because you think of just that entry point and being able to open in that very soft, receptive way where you're inviting your partner or toy or whatever in, you know? And so again, you can't do that when you're depleted and feeling the exact opposite of all of that. You know, you want to be able to take the time, cultivate the energy, really let that soften and feel that succulence, that softness, that juiciness, whatever it feels like for you, whatever word, you know, puts that there for you, where you feel that soft, open, receptive state. And then there you are. You've gone from here to there.
Yeah. So I would say for me, the takeaway for this one would be like, think about what Crystal just said and think about what that might take for you to get there. And just, you know, you don't have to know right now, but just have that thought. Does that seem like that's something possible for you right now? Is that something you'd like to have happen? Where are you on that journey, and what would it take for you to get there?
I love it. All right. Well, grab your glass of water and cheers to more juiciness and nourishment. Yes?
Yes.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Enlivening Musings. You can find us on Instagram at Enlivening Musings. You can find Crystal on her app Pleasure Fairy and Katie on her website wellnesswithkatie.com, or on Instagram at Katie_Bradshaw_PT. Enjoy.